Welcome to Meeple, uniting players around the world. A 30-minute exploration of PJ and Gareth's board game experiences from across both sides of the Atlantic. Each episode they share their thoughts and opinions on the world of board games, including their favourite themes, games, hot topics, and much, much more.
Hey guys, and welcome to a bonus episode of Meeple. That's right, PJ has gone rogue once again, and we're going to do a solo. I was given a preview copy of an upcoming game, Verdun, by Dragon Dawn Productions, and I have the designer with me, Ren Multamäki. Thank you, Ren, for joining us.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Yeah, well, this was an exciting project for me. I had never done anything like this before. It's usually me and my partner Gareth, and we just invite designers and play games and just talk about whatever comes to mind. So this was a unique experience. So thanks for giving me the opportunity.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where this goes, and I think you are equally surprised where the path may lead the discussion, I guess.
So I wanted to dive right in. So the game is called Verdun. It is set in the Battle of Verdun in the First World War, and I wanted to start with the theme. I was curious about how you made the decision to set the game at this time in this event. Is World War One a passionate subject of yours in your personal study, or did it? How did that come together?
Well, I'm always interested of like finding a strong theme or topic for the games. That's how I start my games. That there needs to be a theme or topic that I think it's um, proving to be deep enough and where there is an amount of passion. An aficionado of history and war history in general. So it's not strictly speaking World War One, but wars in more general fashion. But now that we are again getting closer and closer to 110th anniversary of Battle of Verdun, that would be like in less than 2 years. I was like interested of seeing if we could somehow revisit that, and at least here in Europe, people are seeing quite a lot of like political situation that resembles a little bit or more than a little bit what the world was just before World War One.
So when you landed on the theme, did the mechanics, because it's a kind of a trick taking one versus one, two versus two trick taking game, did that naturally marriage together, or did you go through multiple mechanic versions before you landed on this?
I think this was one of those games where I can quite honestly say that when I finally like had a marriage of theme and the mechanics, it did change very little from that time to what it is now, and I think we can safely say that right now it would be completely ready to send for the manufacturing if we would only have the money for it, and that's why we have the crowdfunding, because we are such a small studio that we can't actually produce anything unless there is some sort of crowdfunding that enables the production.
So tell us a little bit more about how the game works. The trick taking is kind of interesting. It's not a very straightforward, what our American listeners may be used to a trick taking. It's a little bit different. In fact, I think your description had someone mentioned a comparison to Twilight Struggle, because the cards that you have in your hand, they might be yours, but they might also strengthen your opponent. Can you talk a little bit more about how that works in the game?
Yes, it is a sort of a trick-taking game, but like you mentioned, a little bit, well, more than a little bit unusual, because there are only two suits, and then as all cards that are in the deck are also in play, on average you get half of your own team, French or German, and on average the other half is then opponent's cards. And as you have to play every single card, it's an interesting question that at which time would you like to play something that benefits your own team and therefore gets you maybe more points, and at which time do you want to play some of those cards that you really need to play at a time, which are then directly benefiting your opponents. And as it's a game where we wanted to try to bring the team quite nicely in front, the key fact in here is that every single card is kind of like depicting a troop of soldiers, and those troop of soldiers will die. So for each battle, that's one trick, there will be casualties. Minimum casualties is like the smallest card of the winning side and the largest card of the losing side will die. Then there are some modifiers that will modify that, and even more can die. And those dead troops are then providing negative points, and I think you could safely say that it's a game where you need to manage the amount of debt, and winning these victory points, which are positive victory points, very, very, very seldomly lead into a situation where your total victory points are actually positive. And I made it specifically so that that it would remind that this particular battle was an exceptionally bloody battle, an exceptionally long battle, and quite unnecessary, because not much of anything actually was achieved in the whole battle, even though it killed over 500,000 soldiers.
Right. Right. Yep. And that's a good point to remember as well. Um, I think the thing that drew me to this game is the theme is so rich, and then you have successfully captured that tension between the two armies during Verdun. Like you really feel that because it's like every time you play a card, it's you're debating on whether or not you're going to give power to your opponent, but also if I lose, do I really want to lose this many casualties? I think that every time we played the game, it was a matter of, and I know you know this as well. But every time we played the game, the winner was always the one with the least amount of negative points.
That's how it goes. Um,
Yeah.
but how to reach that least amount of negative points? For that, there are no straightforward and easy explanations that would give you an overall gaming strategy that if you apply this strategy, it always works, because it is very interactive, which is, I think, a little bit unusual for Trick Taker, that there is player interaction and some communication issues, especially when you play with 4 players, and you need to try to consider that, okay, how do I communicate with my team member that, okay, this is my plan, I'm planning to do that kind of thing, and how hopefully you can help me with this, because there is no hidden communication allowed. So all the things that you communicate has to be done so that everyone hears that or sees that, and that limits your possibilities of making a joint strategy that would be helpful, because you cannot tell that what do you have in your hand. That's not allowed.
Yeah, that was probably the most comfortable aspect of the game at 4 players. Is so many trick taking games just using basic playing cards. Here in America, it's very much you've got a partner, but you can't share
Mm.
any uh, any of what's in your hand. So that was really comfortable, and yet it felt like there was so much more on the line than just taking a trick. Um, that was fantastic. So.
Yeah, I'm quite happy how it turned out to be. It like you said, it captures the tension, and you feel a little bit bad when some of your troop cards die, and that quite often seems to mean that some people are really quite strongly considering that when can they play their own high cards, which would be then the cards that allow you to win. But then again, the high cards are also the highest casualty values. So if they actually end up being dead, yeah, that's a dilemma that you need to consider. That when do you want to take a little bit higher like bid, or so, and yeah, that is
Yeah.
something different.
So tell me a little bit about the art. Um, did you design the art? Did you use public images? How did the art come about, and who is responsible?
Well, all the card art on that game are actual propaganda posters from the World War One. Most of those on the French side are actual French propaganda posters. Most of those that are on the German cards are actual German propaganda posters. But all of those graphics are actually what the propaganda ministries of different countries were using to advertise the war for their own people, and especially the German ones. If you read German language, some of those from today's perspective, um, they have, let's put it this way, interesting messages
Hmm.
that are um,
Relevant?
relevant even today,
Yeah.
and a little bit depressing how much
Hmm.
same kind of message we are still getting in today's world. It's soon 110 years, and have we learned anything? Maybe there is more
Hmm.
technology, but that doesn't mean that situation would be that much different than compared to what it was back then.
So that's really interesting because I couldn't tell if these were actual historical images or if the artwork was done. Um, so that's all part of the public domain. So there was like it was free. All you had to do was access the images and use them. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
that is
Yeah.
correct. It's not that easy to find those, but like I said, I like history, and I have been
Yep.
studying also how to find this sort of things. And now I can safely say that there are some quite good libraries that provide that sort of material.
Right. So how long have you been working on Verdun? Like when the first idea came till the launch this summer, how long has that process been?
Well, this has been unusually quick thing because I think the idea came last September, and the first playable prototype was right after uh, Essen Spiel. That would be then late October last year, and we haven't had kind of like major changes in the game since January. So right now it's been only polishing the rule book, doing some small things like making sure that people all around read the rules in a same way, and that there are no sorry, there are no concepts that are kind of like just assumed that people will know it anyhow. So that's how it goes.
How many languages will the game be released in initially?
Well, we will release it in English and German, uh, and of course, we are always interested of finding publishing partners who would be like willing to do other languages. On
Okay.
some of our earlier games, we have also done some other languages, but we have learned our lesson that to go, for instance, to Italian market, you need to have some more permanent Italian presence, and same
Mhm.
goes for Spanish market and French market, where we have done a couple of products on all of those three languages. But German market, we have fairly permanent presence. I spent something like 2 months every year in Germany. And we have also some team members who actually live in Germany. And English is then the obvious choice because I do all of my game design anyhow in English. Doing
Okay.
anything in Finnish is foolish because there are, like less than, about 5 million people in here, and not all of them are board gamers. So,
Right. Right. So, oh, that's interesting. I would have thought you would have been releasing it in French as well, just given the French and German sides. But that's really interesting. So, how long have you been with Dragon Dawn?
well, I founded the company in 1999, so quite a while.
Okay.
And we have been doing, well, essentially the company started as doing the things that I find worth of doing. So it's kind of like my own company supporting all the things that I find fun and interesting. But since 2008, we have been producing board games in more and more regular pace. We started with one game a year, and now it seems that we do about 4 products every year. Not necessarily 4 games, but 4 products, maybe like 2 games, one expansion, and then something else, like a book or a CD or music or something else, some kind of add-on material that could be handy. So we try to do wide variety of different things.
That's interesting. So, do you think you're going to release either in a CD or perhaps a MP3 or some downloadable version of like a soundtrack to go along with Verdun?
Maybe we have done that for a couple of our games. We
Okay.
have the Factor 42. That's a worker placement game set in a dwarven society, and in our fantasy world, all the dwarves are communists. So it's kind of like a socialistic utopian world where you are running a factory. And for that, we did soundtrack. I think it's something like 45 minutes of suitable sounds that are like as a background track for the game. We did something similar also a couple of years earlier for one of our fantasy games. So it's possible. It's likely that we will add that in the stretch goals at some higher level. It takes quite a lot of effort to kind of create something that is more than marginally useful. So it has to be something where we are also by ourselves happy that it communicates not only um, kind of like the base idea of the game, but it should also communicate the mood that we want to bring in that. And well, that would be nice, but not
Okay.
easy.
So you said you founded Dragon Dawn in 1999. So congratulations on 25 years.
Yeah.
That's quite an achievement. How long have you been in the board game hobby personally?
Well, I would have to say that I I was very keen on playing board games as a child, and I found that many of the games back then were lacking. They were too much of luck-based games, and I think I started making my own first board games at the age of 6, 7, 8, something like that. Of course, they were not very good at that time, but I think it's a safe way of saying that since then, and that would be then something like early 80s, I have been tinkering with board games, but the first published board game is 2008.
Okay. And what was the first modern board game that got you away from the typical roll and moves and luck based games? What was that first game for you?
That's a good question. Let me think. The old Dune, probably. That was published a long time ago. When was it? Uh, uh, let's see. I'm quite sure that this is from something like 80s.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm now meaning the old version, obviously,
Right.
and not the one that just came out. But then again, obviously, games like Settlers of Catan and
Yep.
such are somewhat understandably in that sort of list.
Right. So what's next for Dragon Dawn after Verdun? Is there anything you can tell us about?
Yeah, sure. We are doing. Oh, and now I found out it's the original Dune is from 1979, and I
Oh,
think I played that in something like 84 or 85, and I found that it was brilliant back then, and it was so different than the say alternatives like monopolies and things like that. So
right.
yeah, made a big difference. Anyhow, we have Mind 77, which is kind of like a successor for this Factory 42 that I mentioned. It's a worker placement game that has simultaneous action selection and an interesting double rondel system where you need to choose what your worker wants to do. And There is a little bit of a little bit of cooperation in the game, but it's a it's not a cooperative game. It's a competitive game with a small cooperative element,
Okay.
and that we are planning to have in Game Found probably something like September this year. And then the trick taking games, that would be like the next trick taking game after Verdun, is also pretty much ready. It needs some visuals, but other than that, I think it's fairly ready, and that's for next January. And after that, hopefully, we can finally run Soulspire, which is the biggest product that we have ever done. It's the next version of our Rondel-based dungeon crawler. I have been doing that since 2014, so 10 years by now. And it would be nice to get it finalized, but it's such an immense amount of work that it has taken quite a lot of time. And in recent game testing rounds, people are still finding that there are areas which could be improved, and we don't want to release it before we are sure that it kind of covers all of those areas where someone has said that okay, this could be improved and that could be improved. Now it's close to that, but we need to still run one more round to see that we have kind of managed to polish all of those details into a level where we can be happy and the players can be happy.
Right. So it sounds like you are a busy man with a lot coming down the line. So,
Yeah, that's what. Well, this is what I do as for living. There are a few small things that take maybe a day or two every month that I do as profession. But other than that, it's just game design.
well, thank you so much for joining in and letting me participate in this journey in a small part. So, Verdun is coming to Kickstarter July 23rd, correct?
Yes,
Yep.
that is correct.
And anything else you want to say? Let us know where our listeners can find you and your products. And
Well, ddbgames.com, and there should be like information about all of our games and upcoming campaigns, and also access to the store.
Okay. Fantastic. So be on the lookout. That's July 23rd. Verdun will be out on Kickstarter. That is Dragon Dawn Productions, ddpgames.com. So again, Ren, thank you so much for joining. I really enjoyed this conversation. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks everyone for listening. Please subscribe, and as always, we'd love to hear your thoughts and ideas. So make sure to leave those in the comments. And don't forget, you can also chat with us both on Instagram at Meeple to Meeple.